More revelations broke open today surrounding the Comey indictment. And what Magistrate Judge Fitzpatrick has uncovered is even more explosive than earlier reports suggested. The judge issued a sweeping and meticulously detailed memorandum, one that does far more than criticize the prosecutor's approach. It exposes contradictions, irregularities, and constitutional violations that cut to the very core of the government's case. At the center of the storm are two affidavits, one from Lindsay Halligan and another from Pam Bondi. According to Fitzpatrick, these filings do not merely conflict in small ways. They contradict each other on points that determine the legality of the entire grand jury process. Two federal judges are now depending on these statements. Judge Curry is examining whether Halligan was even properly appointed, while Fitzpatrick is assessing whether the defense should be allowed full access to grand jury materials. The most explosive detail is a mysterious 2-hour gap in the grand jury transcript. Halligan swore in her affidavit that nothing was missing. She insisted the time reflected only standard deliberations. But Fitzpatrick's memorandum dismantles that claim entirely. He states plainly that her account cannot be true as written, which means one of two catastrophic conclusions must follow. Either Halligan and Bondi misled Judge Curry about the contents of the grand jury record, or they misled Magistrate Judge Fitzpatrick in this separate proceeding. Both outcomes are devastating for the prosecution, because misleading even one federal judge can unravel an entire indictment. But misleading, too, is something the justice system treats as an institutional emergency. The magistrate goes even further. He warns that a single conflicting document filed in a related case can collapse the government's position. And that appears to be exactly what has happened here. This isn't a minor discrepancy. It strikes at the structural integrity of the case and the reliability of the prosecutors handling it. Another pillar of Fitzpatrick's findings involves the mishandling of attorney-client privilege. The memorandum details systemic failures in how the government reviewed and used documents seized through search warrants. Fitzpatrick notes that privileged materials were not properly screened, that they were improperly shown to the grand jury, and that these violations alone may be enough grounds for dismissal. These are not procedural quibbles. They are foundational errors that cut to the heart of due process. In a dramatic shift, Fitzpatrick also ordered that the full grand jury record be released to the defense. Until now, only judges had seen it. The defense has been operating in the dark, relying on summaries and filtered descriptions. This order flips the balance of power in the case. Now the defense can dissect the actual transcripts, the missing segments, the internal inconsistencies, and potentially uncover additional misconduct. The memorandum's second half is even more damning. Fitzpatrick outlines a series of constitutional mistakes allegedly committed by Halligan inside the grand jury room. These are not the kinds of errors seasoned prosecutors make. They are the types of mistakes law school students are trained to avoid from day one. He says Halligan gave the impression that Comey needed to testify to avoid negative inference, but that is legally backwards. The Fifth Amendment protects individuals from being compelled to testify, and judges routinely instruct juries not to infer guilt from silence. A prosecutor implying the opposite not only misstates the law but threatens to taint the entire grand jury process. Then there's the burden of proof issue. Fitzpatrick accuses Halligan of suggesting that Comey needed to disprove the government's allegations. That is a direct violation of due process. The prosecution bears the burden beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense has no obligation to present a case at all. If the prosecutor reversed that principle, even subtly, it could render the entire indictment invalid. Fitzpatrick's 24-page opinion reads like a point-by-point autopsy of the government's failures. He describes misstatements of law, improper presentation of evidence, inadequate supervisory oversight, and even raises concerns that confidential grand jury information may have leaked or been discussed improperly. The implication is unmistakable. The prosecution's handling of the case may have been fundamentally flawed from the start. The stakes could not be higher. If the defense demonstrates attorney-client privilege violations or unconstitutional grand jury conduct, the indictment may be dismissed in part or in full. Such an outcome would be a major blow to the Department of Justice, especially in a politically sensitive, high-visibility prosecution. Let's clarify the key players. Halligan is the junior prosecutor whose statements are at the center of the crisis. Bondi is the second government attorney whose filings conflict with Halligan's. Judge Curry is evaluating whether Halligan was validly appointed, and Fitzpatrick is overseeing the grand jury access and privilege disputes. The opinion also highlights a broader institutional problem within the DOJ. Fitzpatrick pointedly asks why Halligan, relatively inexperienced, was sent into a high-stakes grand jury presentation alone. Why did no senior federal prosecutor accompany her? Why was there no second chair supervising a sensitive proceeding with constitutional landmines everywhere? This lack of oversight may have enabled the cascade of errors now threatening the case. Beyond that, the memorandum raises concerns about inter-office coordination. When prosecutors file affidavits in separate cases that directly contradict each other, it suggests a breakdown in communication and leadership within the prosecution team. It hints at a deeper structural failure, one that goes beyond individual missteps. Because legal teams in complex federal matters are expected to maintain rigorous internal consistency, and the fact that they didn't raises questions about whether the case was rushed, politicized, or simply mishandled. So what happens next? Now that the defense has access to the grand jury materials, they are expected to comb through every page, every exchange, every inconsistency. They will file motions to dismiss based on privilege violations, constitutional errors, and improper conduct. If the court agrees, the indictment could collapse or be narrowed significantly, and Judge Curry's ongoing review of Halligan's appointment becomes even more consequential. If she was improperly appointed, that alone could invalidate the proceedings she conducted. This is a rapidly unfolding chapter in an already volatile case. Expect new filings, emergency hearings, and intense courtroom battles. The political and legal ramifications will ripple far beyond the Comey indictment itself. Fitzpatrick's opinion stands as a stark reminder of the power of judicial oversight. Federal judges can expose misconduct, correct procedural abuses, and restore fairness when prosecutors overstep. And according to the memorandum, overstepping may be exactly what happened here. This story is not over. In many ways, it is only beginning. As the defense analyzes the newly released records and prepares its motions, the credibility of the prosecution and the stability of the case hang in the balance.